Volker Stanzel joins me now live from Berlin. He's a former German ambassador to China. Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. Since you served as Germany's ambassador to China, let me begin by asking you, what does Xi Jinping's re-election mean for the relationship between China and the European Union?
It is no change to what we had before, and before, I mean before zero COVID policy. That changed China's perception of the world, and it changed our perception of what China is like. Now China is coming back. That is the major message of things like the whole National People's Congress and the mediation effort that China did. China is back. And the situation is not so different from before zero COVID. The one difference is, of course, in the relationship between China and the United States. And that has an impact also on our own perception of China in Europe.
And do you think the differences that exist between the United States and China, they're only going to exacerbate in Xi Jinping's third term? Because we are seeing statements come from the Chinese foreign ministry, for example, one where they say that the US needs to basically put brakes.
Yes, I think indeed the conflict will even deepen. Because on the one hand, you have the situation in the United States, where the president has decided to launch a policy that is very critical of China, enumerating a lot of the complaints the USA had in the past, but where it did never act. Now it did, with export controls, minimizing imports from China, and export controls, I mean mainly electronic chips. Import, I mean the whole area where China sells electronic goods, etc., to the United States. That is to be minimized. And that is why the Chinese foreign minister in his press conference warned the United States of decoupling. But I see that decoupling coming because also China is interested in minimizing its own exposure to whatever happens in Washington. And then come the major conflict, which is about Ukraine and China's position at the side of Russia. So I do not see anything that could modify the, that could, let's say, minimize the areas of conflicts that we have between China and the United States at the present time.
But as I understand, you say you don't see anything happening unless something changes. What do you think needs to change in order for some progress to be made?
As I said, I cannot see anything coming. But look, for example, what could happen is the mediation effort China undertook between Iran and Saudi on the one hand, and the lack of a mediation effort between Russia and the Ukraine on the other hand. Exactly in the week when the United Nations met to pass a resolution trying to promote diplomatic negotiations between Russia and Ukraine and to path the way towards peace. In that same week, China did not really participate in the negotiations. It presented its own 12-point position paper, which put it right at the side of Russia. If that does not change, it is very, very difficult to see accommodation between China and the United States happening. But China could do so, as it showed with the mediation that it implemented between Iran and Saudi Arabia. That was a first in the political diplomatic history of China, when in such a tense situation, it managed to bring the two sides together. That was really a Chinese achievement, and it shows what China could possibly do if it so wanted.
Fascinating insights into the topic. Ambassador Volker Stanzel, thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World.